What up, Doe One Pride? I am the Ant-Man, the Brit with grit, and this is Lions Nation Unite, the forum created by Detroit Lions legend Herman Moore, bringing together a whole host of Detroit Lions content creators into one forum to talk about anything and everything Detroit Lions. If you do me a favor and like and share this video, and if you like the content that's coming out, please consider subscribing to the channel as well. This only works with the help of you, the fans, helping us to grow. So as Lions Nation Unite. So why am I here with you today? So I think we can agree we got a very good football team here in Detroit. Getting to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago, 15 wins at a one seed last year. We are in an infinitely better place than we were 4 years ago when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell arrived here, and now we're going into a new season with renewed optimism and a renewed push back towards the Super Bowl. And I think we all agree we have the team potentially to do that, but with the same as every other 31 franchises in the NFL, each team has weaknesses. Each team has obstacles that it's going to have to overcome during the season to end up getting that Lombardi in February. And we're no different. So we're here today to look at some of the possible weaknesses in this team, scenarios which are going to hinder us in our ability to get to a Super Bowl, and whether we as a team can overcome this and ultimately make that final step towards getting the hardware. So I've got 3 points that we really want to talk about here. First, two that relate towards our trenches, and then there's a little bit of a mentality thing we want to talk about as well. So obviously the biggest problem as of now going into this season is we have a revamped offensive line that is going to be, on show this year. Kevin Zeitler is gone. Frank Ragnow has retired. Graham Glasgow is coming off not his best year in the pros, and we're going to be facing a situation where our entire interior of this offensive line is effectively going to be new or in different positions this year. Probably going to be some combination of Christian Mahogany, Tate Ratledge, and Graham Glasgow. And I don't need to explain to you the cons of having an offensive line which is going to be so revamped, especially for a team that us, which has just had one of the best offenses in the NFL over the last few years. We pride ourselves on our ability to run the football, to control the clock, and that just opens out the entire playbook for us to be able to use our plethora of game-changing playmakers that we've got on this side, which has made us so dangerous. And it is going to take time probably to get back to the levels we have expected of the last few years, especially early on in the season. Whoever starts, probably going to be two rookies. And dependent on where Graham's playing, whether it's the centre, whether it's at right guard, we might be trying out a centre who has never played the position before and is going to take time to adjust to his position. But there's probably going to be some growing pains. Like the first couple of months of the year, we're probably going to have to deal with some inconsistencies in play whilst these guys are able to adapt to their new positions and adapt to their new roles in this team. Now, I do have faith. Like, you've still got a pair of really good bookend tackles here. And the fact is, we've got that many offensive weapons on this team. We have a pretty hefty playbook which we can use to alleviate the pressure on the interior of that line, get it out quick to the perimeter, using your screens. We got plenty of trick plays in the book, and ultimately, we've just got a ton of talented players who should be able to overcome, the losses that we have sustained there. We should still be able to find a way to grind this out, but it's for sure going to be an issue for us. You've got to wait until the continuity comes in. I am against the grain here. I would love to see the offensive line play in preseason. I know Dan Campbell likes the scrimmages more than the preseason games, but with 4 games, including the Hall of Fame game, you do have an opportunity to get some of your guys out there, give them live reps. And cohesion is the biggest thing for an offensive line, like the ability to work together. Yeah, you can do it in training drills, but you've got to do it in a game day situation as well. And I think this year, more than any, it warrants getting those snaps together, especially if you're going to give them to Tate Ratledge at center. You've got to give him some form of in-game experience at the position before we just go cold into the season, because we got a very tough start to this year. Like that road schedule early on is brutal. You got NFC North rivalry games. Like you could be behind the chains pretty soon if this thing doesn't get going. So I would like to see them play quite a bit in preseason. I screw the injury risk. We've seen last year injuries happen at any point. We lost all our guys during the regular season. They can come here, there, anywhere. We need to give them the best chance to succeed in, and the best chance to be able to do that is giving them time playing together in the middle. And we've got 4 games to be able to do that before the season starts. But the offensive line for sure going to be an issue this year. Hopefully for us, it gels sooner rather than later, but could be one of the things that does hold us back initially. And then we're going to flip it over to the other side of the line. If you're looking at potential weaknesses in this team, like our defensive line has been so good these last few years, especially stopping the run in the interior. That's what we base our game off. Get guys in third and long situations, make plays on the ball after that. But we're starting the season light this year. Obviously, Aleem is not going to be available to us till nearly November, probably, and then you're going to have to give 3, 4 weeks for him to get up to scratch. So you're probably not looking at him being in his best of form until you're reaching December time, which is going to be quite late on in the year. And you've got a bunch of guys in there who can do a job. Obviously, we've got Tyleek Williams in the draft. Levi's here on his 1 year prove it deal. Broderick hopefully is going to break out in his third year. Obviously, DJ Reed is your veteran leader in there, but you're going to be looking at these guys to all contribute sooner rather than later to mitigate Aleem's loss in the middle, especially when it comes to the pass rushing aspect of it. That interior disruption he causes makes life easier for our edges. And the edge room is also a part of this conundrum. We've got our guy, we got Aiden back for this year, but he needs a bookend. Purely and simply, somebody has got to step up on the opposite side of this line and give him help because it is not fair for us to put the expectation on Aiden that he needs to come back and play like an all-pro for us because he's going to need to. If we want to generate sufficient pressure on the quarterback this year, the game-changing plays, the turnovers, the drive killers, we're going to need him to be an all-pro and coming off a broken leg. That's just unfair, especially if no one's taking pressure off him on the other side of the line. Marcus Davenport at this point is just a sick note who is injured all the time. Josh Pascal has been inconsistent at best. You've got guys like Al-Qadim Mohammed and that who've been good rotational guys, but someone's got to step up by the scruff of the neck and take that other position there, whether it be bringing Zadarius Smith back, etc. But as it stands, there is no bookend to him. And giving Aiden that responsibility of having to go out there and be the guy, you've not got a Liam in the middle drawing pressure in there. You've not got another edge on there drawing pressure. If one of these guys can't step into a starting role and be a good impact player on this game, it's going to make it tougher for Aiden, which conversely is going to make it tougher for us as a team to be able to play the way that we want to. Obviously, the run game stuff should still be fine, but we need to do better with the quarterbacks. We need more sacks from more different areas on this team. Now, whether you get creative, bring the likes of Branch up. Obviously, Derek Barnes is back this year, which should help having him in the front seven to also bring the blitz and bring the pressure there. You can do it, but the D line is potentially a spot of weakness if we can't get the rotation right in the middle and if we can't find a guy opposite Hutch this year. Obviously, there's plenty of candidates in there. Hopefully, we can do it. Casey Rogers, we got our new defensive line coach. We'll see what he cooks up this year in terms of scheme, whether he can put Aiden in favorable situations, move guys around, create favorable mismatches, etc. But if you're looking at areas where we might potentially struggle this year, the defensive line for me is up there, just probably behind the offensive line woes. And then for me, really the only other big area of this team that I've got question marks about coming into this year, which potentially might be a drawback, is it's the mentality of this team. And now, like, hear me out here, obviously, grit culture, the hard work ethic, everything that Dan Campbell's installed here is what has brought us to this point. We wouldn't be here without that gritty, underdog, workman-like spirit, which represents the city, which is what this team is about. It is the reason why we are one of the toughest teams to beat in the league. It is the reason why we've not lost 2 games in a row for over 2 years now. The mentality to absorb those losses, absorb the setbacks, and keep on moving forward is absolutely admirable with this team. But Washington last year showed us the problem maybe with grit culture and what we need to do with it to be able to take that next step towards a Super Bowl. What we have been so far up until that Washington game last year, really, we've been underdogs. We've feasted off the underdog mentality. We've feasted off proving people wrong that this team is legit, that we are for real, building this thing from scratch, getting the first playoff win, the playoff run that got us to the championship game. We were underdogs. People kept expecting us to fail, and we were proving them wrong in spite of themselves and looking damn good in the process. And then last year, they're looking great. 15 wins in the season. They seem to be dealing with the pressure of moving from that underdog to moving into favorite territory. But then we came up against Washington in the playoffs. Now, what you do in the regular season, it doesn't matter if you get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. It just effectively renders it all worthless. And what we saw with this team, and what I said before we played that game, Washington were us from the year before. This was an upstart team who no one really believed in, with a lot of good young players who were proving everybody wrong, and they weren't scared of anybody. You saw the fans chanting "Bring them on" before they came to us here, and you're like, "Wow, man, that reminds us of the team we were." And they come into our house, and for the first time ever, really in a pressure situation in the playoffs, we're not the underdog anymore. We are going to be expected to go out there and beat these teams. We're going to be expected to not let them be the Cinderella story at our expense. We're going to be the ones who got to quash the fairy tale per se, and we weren't able to do it. They came out swinging, gave us their best shots, and we weren't able to respond. We played sloppy football at parts. We just were not as good as we were meant to be. And that's a mentality thing. We've got to keep the grit core of what we're all about, but at some point you have to evolve into being ruthless as a favorite, as a team who you are expected to beat, who are coming into your house in a pressure situation. We've not been that before, and I'm happy to root off last year as it's a mental learning curve for this team. It's a situation they've not been in before, and they will. But we've seen this with this team before. They've like when we missed out on the playoffs first time, we got absolutely battered by Carolina and looked like we didn't know what we were doing. Next year we came back, we got to the playoffs. Like you bounce back from those setbacks. But my question is, can this team turn from a gritty underdog into a ruthless victor? Because every single year you are going to come up against a team, whether they be a valiant underdog or they're just as elite as you are. Have you got it in your head? Have you got it in your mind to be able to go out there and dominate? Because that's the next step you've got to take. And seeing the Washington game last year just puts concerns in your mind that, can they do this? Can we take that next step? Because we've got to take that next step soon. This is year 5 now. We're going to be going into year 6, 7 soon. We've got to see a payoff at some point with this strategy. Can our players do that? I believe they can. Again, I've seen nothing to indicate that they're not going to learn their lesson from when they hit a setback and immediately come back and disprove people wrong. But I think that's the question you have to ask this year. It's not about winning 15 games, 14 games, 13 games. It's what happens when you get to the playoffs this year. Because now you need to be getting to the championship game again. You need to be getting to the Super Bowl again. Can you do it? Coming up against these teams and just putting them away in a ruthless fashion. No excuses, no nothing as to why you can't do that. For me, that is the biggest question left to ask of this team is have they got that mentality just to take the last step up to victor level from where we're at now? Obviously, you keep your core grit mentality about it, but you've got to add that edge. You can't be an underdog forever, and we are certainly not going to be an underdog this year. Everybody's gunning for us. We've got to hold them all at bay. We've got to show them who's boss. Can't be just doing the whole setback and we're going to fight back against a tide as we appear to be sinking type mentality. You've got to go out there and dominate from week 1 and show them who's boss, and you've got to do it when it matters. So that's it. For me, the 3 weaknesses potentially on this team this year, which are going to hold us back. Obviously, the interior of the offensive line as it gels and whether the players work or not, whether they're able to create a line which will get us to a Super Bowl. Defensive line, we need to find an edge too, and we need to make sure that defensive tackle room is settled until Aleem returns later in the year and we get it back up to full strength. And then the mentality of the team. Can mentally they take that step from underdogs to victors was maintaining their core identity. That's where I'm at. So, feel free to leave your comments below on the video. Is there anything else with the Lions that potentially concerns you? Are there any of my concerns that you think are unfounded, that are maybe a bit unfair? I just say it how I see it. I still believe this team is going to do incredibly well this year, and I'm rooting for them all the way. Don't care who we're playing, what we're doing. This team have my back in 100%. These are just the things that if we weren't to do well, though, I would surmise would be the reason why. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, as always, I'll chat in there with you and, yeah, love conversing with you guys. So appreciate you all watching. As always, don't forget to like and share the video. And again, if you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing to Lions Nation Unite. And if you want to see more from myself, you can find me at Roar of the Lions UK. We're a group of Detroit Lions fans from over in England and Scotland, over in Britain, basically. So if you want to come and check out your Lions news and views from a British perspective, come check us out here at Roar of the Lions UK. But yeah, that's all from me today. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.